Solar energy is one of the greatest resources out there, and we want to harness that energy. On this new project that we're building here in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, we're going to try to capture or harvest as much solar energy as possible, whether it be through PV or solar thermal on this project. So we invited George Keithan to come here from CES, and he's going to do a solar sighting today and kind of tell us the feasibility of doing that on this particular project. So come, let's meet George and see what's involved with this. Hey George, how you doing?
Hey Dave, how you doing?
Thank you for coming over here and let's do a solar sighting and see what's involved.
Great, well thanks for inviting me. So what our goal is today is to really figure out where the sun is tracking for your new house. We want to try to obtain all the solar energy we can and really determine if we want to go solar electric or solar PV or solar thermal on your house to figure out which is the best bang for the buck for this low energy or zero energy house that we're trying to develop here. So to start, what we normally do is just do a site assessment. And today is kind of the site assessment day, where you took down the trees in the area and we're trying to figure out where the sun rises and where it sets, and how it will affect the building ultimately and gain the most BTUs or solar kilowatt hours for the house. So to start that, what we normally do is do a quick site assessment.
So what is this little guy right here?
You know, this is it's called the Solar Pathfinder, and it does just that. It gives the path of the sun in the course of the whole year, and it looks for every month of the year, and it also looks for every hour of the day.
Oh, okay, all right.
So, you know, this device has been around for decades. And what we like about it doesn't have any batteries, but we do then take some photographs of it and we put it into a program, and it'll help give us the percentage of efficiencies that we're going to have in your system.
Oh,
ultimately.
okay, all right, good.
So, you know, when looking at the Solar Pathfinder, you know, I have some good news. And I think the good news is the amount of sun that's going to be presented to your house on a daily and a monthly basis. We can look at it and can see that we normally want to go between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. And that combination gives you the most solar hours in the course of a day.
Okay, yep.
So when looking at your Pathfinder information, we'll take this data and we'll then move it up to the height of the roof electronically through a computer program.
Wow.
And that will then see where the shading of the trees are off into the background. And from what I see here today, you know, from 9 a.m. to about 3, we got some pretty good sun. And when we take this and when we elevate it back up, I think we're going to get most sun most of the time of the year.
Okay.
And that
that's great. That's really what we're looking for on this.
Absolutely.
Another question for George. You know, we had the architects kind of lay out some PV panels on the roof, and I think they came up with a total of 42. And, you know, it's just kind of a rough thing to see what we have for space available. Do you think that'll be enough, or do we need more or less, or what will be involved? And what does 42 represent?
Right. That's a good question. So, you know, 42 solar panels is quite a bit on a roof, which is a good number. Right. You know, if we, depending on what size solar module we actually use, you know, it's going to range between about 10 kW and 12 kW of solar energy on the actual roof. And it would be our hope that that combination will be enough energy to support all of the building. But until we do the energy modeling, which will be the next step we do once we look at your building envelope and all your thermal gains and all the components that are necessary, we won't exactly know, but we certainly know that it would produce a mass majority of the energy that you need to have.
Everybody wants to have that balance. You know, we want to save as many trees as possible, but, you know, and it's a renewable source. We could actually track where some of those trees went, the stumps grinding. But anyhow, the idea was, okay, we took just enough trees to create this, you know, harvesting of the solar, and yet still have a buffer around for privacy and try to keep things natural, erosion control, and all those other things.
Part of this whole planning is for us to look at the siting of the house as well, because passive solar is one of the most important parts of your energy production during the winter months.
Oh.
So we're in a cold climate here, and we actually want solar heat gain. Unlike down south where they want to keep the sun out, in the wintertime we actually want to take the sun and do passive solar. So the house is facing right now just about perfectly south. It's within just a few degrees, which is great for us to have. Also, we want to be able to get domestic hot water and domestic heating to be considered into this whole application. So when we do this solar siting, we're looking at solar thermal, we're looking at solar PV, we're looking at passive solar. And all that's being incorporated into today's siting on how the house is being placed.
Yeah, well, great. Yeah, we made a big effort to orient the house in this direction so we get the back and, whatever we do for, a panel array, whether it be solar thermal or a combination PV and solar thermal, on the back it will be facing as close to south as possible and not be as obtrusive from the front of the house and have sun in the backyard. So, well, that's great.
Yeah, and the other nice thing is as you cleared the trees, we now could really see that we're going to get sun pretty much all year round when we need it for our solar energy, both solar PV, solar thermal, and in the wintertime for passive solar to gain that inside the house.
When I was meeting with the architects, George, they were talking about which shade of green, and of course I want to be as energy efficient as possible, but what does that entail? How green do you think this project will be?
Well, I think that the house itself is going to be very green, and the shade of green will be quite dark green when we're all said and done. But I always like to start off with the most practical pieces first. And solar siding is really, really important. The next thing is our building envelope. How well are we insulating it, air sealing that building, and looking at the consumption of energy inside of it. With your Energy Star appliances, your Energy Star lighting fixtures, those are very important for us to consider.
You got to start with the basics, the envelope, the orientation, all the other things, the appliances, the lighting. Yeah, okay. Well, that's why we're having this meeting, and we can follow through. I would know a few things to pick, but I look for some guidance on some other stuff. Maybe the mechanical, maybe the lighting system, maybe some may be more efficient than others, and things like that. And even the electric company was asking the other day, "What's your load?" I was like, "Well, hopefully minimal, but no, I don't have a number for you quite yet." So.
Right. And I can't overemphasize conservation helps us all. And just throwing panels on the roof, which I love, they're really sexy. But the fact of the matter is we have to conserve it.
Yes.
And start with the conservation and then add on top of it.
Yeah, reduce, reuse, recycle kind of thing. You start with that conservation first, do a good tight envelope. Yeah, awesome.
Great.
Thank you, George. I really appreciate your time and look forward from, following up with those next steps on that.
My pleasure.
All right, take care. Well, that was great information. George really passed along a lot of stuff about doing the siding here and electrical and energy and what is going to be involved in heating the home here. So very excited. On our next episode, we're going to go over some of the terminology. We did it once before, but it was more just land and trees. Now we're getting a little bit more involved in some of the building structure and some of the other things that we may want to address or answer right now. So, hey, join us.